Eastcoastmom Westcoastson, and it's been a minute since we've had a show. I think last time we had a show, we were talking shit. That was the talking shit show. But today we have Frank Castle, the infamous Frank Castle.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I met Frank, met Frank for the first time tonight, formally, but that caught up the first time that I saw you.
Okay.
Being interviewed by, well, not being interviewed, but kind of joining Chris and Sheree there. And then hearing you talk about your Facebook group. And then it was, crazy things started happening, 40 plus years, and then all of a sudden everything starts clicking together. It's beautiful, beautiful stuff. So how did you get there?
Short time. We the group started with like 15 people, and then I never really touched it, and I was being told people want this, they want meditation, they want it, but they want it the way there's people like you, Frank. That's what I was getting, right? They'll join you. It's your family. And after so many sessions of, I'm an ayahuasca shaman, by the way. So after so many sessions, I've seen this before, but I'm going, how am I going to promote this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? So I just started playing around with the group, and it instantly grew to 100 people. Like instantly, but only with the people that really wanted some kind of participation in anything spiritual. Then I said, well, now we got like 150. Who wants to meditate? Right? And then a small handful. And then that grew. So we're doing an average of like 30 to 33 people. But then by the morning, it's over 175 views. So, people are kicking in from all over the country, all over the world, and joining us. And that's expanding outward, just like we are. It brings the energy that we had just manifested and brought in to hold. It goes off again on someone else's computer, and it brings all of that in again, and it echoes out with the next. So it's a pretty amazing phenomenon. But not only that, now you've been with us for a while.
Yeah, a little while.
Because we haven't been doing it that long. It was when Chris went to the pyramid.
Right.
That's when this started, right? Manifestations, really interesting tests, level ups, interesting meeting the beings. People were always like, oh, the beings, that's what I want to know. Well, there's a variety of kind. As Paula and I always say, it's all real. So it's what you choose to focus on at that moment. So the beings that we work with are the energetic beings, which is the energy inside of you. So it's not like we're looking for external factors and bringing them over going, come on, like you're just tapping into your personal gnosis and unlocking it and allowing it to show you what it is. Right? They're like achievements. As we achieve the Shiva, as we achieve Buddha, as you achieve the Jesus, like or the Christ, you just keep going. It keeps leveling up. There's always more to learn. Right.
That was actually one of the things that I wanted to ask you about. But let's start back at the beginning. Childhood. What was childhood like? Because being a Neo Shaman, we always, the wounded healer.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's the story. If you could take a cross-section of that TFR Fearless group, I guarantee at least 90% are wounded healers.
Yeah, most of us are. I think majority. And the ones who go, no, I'm not wounded. I don't have any injuries. I go, what's happening in your house? And they're like, bro, you have no idea. Horrible. I'm like, oh, you're wounded in the heart. So we're all... Something, all right, growing up, it was weird. When I was young, there was a lot of fantasy in my world. Didn't matter that I was here in the Bronx. I was in pre-K. In pre-K, I was picked to go to the Mickey Mouse Club. I was one of the little dancers, and I wore the E on the end. lots of dancing, lots of phenomenal stuff. And then I got a little heavy and they fired me. Right. So that started the weirdness for me. I'm like, what is this fired business? Right. They're like, well, because all your singing and dancing now isn't the way it was going to be. As a child, you think you have these thoughts like, wow, this is going to happen. Something really intense is going on. And then that's removed. Then parents divorced, bullies stepping in, realizing the force doesn't actually work when bullies attack you, right? Like, oh, use the force to stop them. Yeah, that doesn't stop a punch. Not yet, at least, right? Had no clue. Grew up Catholic. Didn't believe in any of it. Didn't believe a word they said from day one. Don't know why. I have this weird thing, too. I almost wish if I had the chance to do it again, I wouldn't change it. Because of my situation and where I was, it was probably fantastic, programming for where I was.
Mhm.
And it gave me a set of a regimented set of morals, like don't kill, don't do this, don't do that. So I took that in. I said, okay, that's real. That's morality. You don't need Jesus. You need a punch in your face if you do something that's immoral, right? So I stepped with that process. I became I played lacrosse in college, Division II. Still nothing. I have no connection to the spiritual. Nothing. I'm dead sober with it. I have no study for ancient Egypt. Nothing. Basic Bronx kid, meathead across the board, but smarter than your average bear. Getting to, I worked for the USDA as a federal inspector for 13 years. In 2013, I fell and broke my neck and back on the job and didn't know I did that. I just got up and I was like, oh man, something's wrong. And then I couldn't walk. And then they just removed me from duty. And they were like, you're done. Sorry. I had no job instantly. The girl I was with wanted to leave me. The injuries were insane. Nobody, workman's comp wasn't covering nothing. I went to basically the pale, right? I was thrown in the purge bucket. Get out of here. With that, I get a call from the Wu-Tang Killer Bees, which is the subgroup of Wu-Tang. They asked me to come on tour with them. I said, I can't. I busted my neck and back. They said, well, do your best. We'll hold your spot. I went to a doctor. He put a spinal epidural in my neck so I could walk around. And I tried to book a room out in Denver and couldn't book a room. Couldn't get a room anywhere. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And boom, Chris Gio calls me. Hey, I see your flyer. You're going to be out in Denver, Colorado. You should come stay with me. And I'm like, what? I've been trying for 2 weeks. The girl that's here is a booking agent. She can't get anything. He's like, yeah. It's best to not explain it. Just take a flight. I'll pick you up. You stay with me. I'm a week early. I was like, a week early? He's like, yeah, we're going to drink ayahuasca. I was like, what? So when I started doing my research at that point, so now I was running right into Chris. I had heard on Joe Rogan some stuff. I did interviews with MMA fighters because I used to work for combatbroadcasting.com. I met them and I knew some of them did it and it kind of knocked the meathead out of them. They suddenly didn't really want to fight and, they kind of go in different ways with it. But I heard about the healing and that was all I had to hear because I'm like, I'm going to do this. Whether anyone likes it or not, I'm going to find a way to heal myself because the doctors are like, by the time you're 50, you're not going to be walking. I'm like, nah, man, this isn't going to happen to me. Like my life has been wishy-washy up to this point. Like nothing's ever been accomplished. I'm always falling short of the goal, even though I'm about to score the goal. Like I'm not here to learn those kind of lessons. Enough is enough. Well, day one at Chris's house, when we met each other, I never met him. We did one interview 10 years prior. And for like the police state, I was doing music in the Truth Movement. I'm in the music group Heist Click, by the way. So we were doing that. I get to him, and he's a big guy. He's a huge guy. He looked at me in the eyes. I said, you have big eyes like me. He picked me up off the floor. He started hugging me. I'm like, dude, don't kill me. My neck's busted. I explained to him what's wrong. He's like, don't worry, we'll heal you. I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. I went to the top doctors in New York. I still see them. He's like, yeah, don't worry about it. So he gets me to the house. He says, tonight we're going to do this. I'm just fast forwarding a little bit through it. Because we're going to smoke DMT first. I said, okay. I heard you can see beings with that when you smoke that. He goes, yeah, the beings are great. They're there too, whatever. Like you want to just see what's going on. Trust me. You're gonna take 3 giant hits. He gave me this whole rundown. So everybody's watching me, and like they put their hands on my knees, and they put the bong in my face, and I take the first hit, and I'm like, I'm doing this for medical purposes. I'm not really doing this to trip out. I could care less about that, right? So I'm like, I need to do this. The first hit, room started instantly changing. I started seeing like glittery stuff around the room. Energy started to pop up slowly. Their faces started morphing. I held it in as long as I can. I blew it out. Second hit, portal opened right in front of me in the room. It was the entire wall. And 2 beings stepped out and said, "You ready?" And I looked, I started crying. I said, "I don't know what's happening." I heard this womp, 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 womp. And I'm like, "What is that?" And they're like, "Take the 3rd hit." And I'm like, "I'm not taking that hit." I'm like, "You're trying to kill me." And then they're like, "Do it." And then I heard inside me, "Do it for your neck and your back. Do it for your health." Right? So I said, "All right, well, I'll do it." I took the hit. The being standing next to me just grabbed me, tore me out of my body, held me, looked at me in the face, threw me through the portal like he was with me. And I hit the portal like a bug on the windshield. And I passed through it, and I was like, "I'm soaking wet. I'm dry. I'm absolutely dry." I said, I must have peed myself. Send me back. Send me back. And they showed me, and I was laid out on the floor, tongue sticking out. I was freaking out, but I was all right. So they threw me back in, and I get up. I stand up. I look around. I'm like, what the hell is happening to me? I check my face. I go, oh, I didn't drool, nothing. I didn't pee. Nothing. I laid back down. Boom. I was gone. I went on a little bit of a mission. I talk about it on the show Fearless. They showed me a couple of the planets, who's inhabiting them. Then I started portaling out and witnessing what was going on in the densities. And they dropped me to the Satan energy, as well as as the source. So I started in source, came out of source, met Lucifer, worked my way down the chain of commands, and then they just dropped me into the lowest density. I had this long conversation with Satan, who I thought was going to kill me and try to eat me. He told me, "No, I'm an energy, and it's how you guys work with me and whatever." And he goes, "You're a creator. I don't want nothing to do with you. I'm going to let you know now, unless you're that stupid, I literally want," he goes, "I don't have to get up and do anything." And I said, "Well, if it's energy, technically you're he, or whatever you are, is an avatar for the energy. I understand that. I read comic books." And he's like, "There you go, creator." And then they just let me up. When I came back, I grabbed Chris and I started crying hysterically. I said, "I have to go back." There was a whole bunch of things that happened. So he says, "You want to go back in again?" And I go, "Yes." I waited an hour, and I said, "That has to be a hallucination." And the first thing, everything exactly that happened the first time happened in 1 second. And then the beings started laughing, and they go, "Oh, you think it's a hallucination?" Dragged me out again. And when I mean they dragged me out, they like dragged me at one point, kicking this guy. I was like, "Get off me, get off me." And Chris, I could hear Chris going, "Who the hell is he talking to? I've never seen anything like this before." So they're like, "You're a shaman. Check it out." I'm like, "I don't know what a shaman is. I have no clue." I think I do. I think there's a guy in the comics. He lives in the outback in Canada. He talks to animals, and he does some magic or something, right? And they're like, "Yeah, something like that. You're going to enjoy this." So they show me I was an old man, but I had no beard, no facial hair. I had really long white hair, and I had war paint on. And the war paint, and I could see my reflection in the water. I was very old. Looked like the heist click symbol from my music group. And I'm like, "Wow, that's interesting." And I turn, and Chris is standing right next to me. He's not wearing any shirt. He's got like a thing in his, like a bandana on, and a feather in his hat. And I'm like, "Dude, you got a feather in your hat? What have you guys been doing while I've been away?" And he's looking at me. He's like, "We've been here like 5 minutes before you even got here." And I'm looking, and I see Cherie. And I'm like, she looks like a squaw. She comes running over, and she's like, "Oh, I love you," whatever. And I'm going, "Where the hell is the living room?" There's no living room. There's no, where's the water? And how did the fire get here? And they're going, relax. They're touching my face, and they're holding me. So then we had another rapper there. His name was Bliss, and he was standing in the background. And I could have swore he was my little brother. Something about him. And then he was hiding behind a rock. And I go, "What's he doing over there?" And they're like, "Oh, he ate mushrooms. He's not ayahuascaing. So he's basically having a rough time with this moment right now." Because he wasn't expecting, if you eat a little bit of mushrooms, to have this kind of experience. So he was witnessing what we were witnessing, all sitting in the room together. So slowly, I'm being told this was the last time you guys saw each other together before you're killed. And I'm like, what? So they're like, yeah. And they just take me out of it, and they go, and right at that point, you die. I go, how did I die? Everything was fine. They said there were men hunting you. They're hunting your tribe. You didn't even know. And they just came up, killed you, and then went into the group and found the group and killed them too. And I'm like, are you kidding me? They're like, no, well, we're not going to show you that right off the bat. We're not trying to scare you. I'm like, you're not trying to scare me? Like, I've met beings. I've been through portals. I was sitting on Saturn watching the AI broadcast from another realm. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And they're like, where do you think you are? And I said, I don't know anymore. And when I looked back, it looked like a simulation that you could control an avatar in, wrapped in an illusion, literally wrapped in a net that creates more of an illusion. And then when they were popping me in and out of my body, and I could see as Frank, and then I come back out and I could see everything and see as Frank. And I'm like, wow, you can only see like a few percent. And they're like 3%. That's all you can see is 3%. And I'm like, damn, I'm not even aware of you. And you're standing next to me. And then I was in my body and they were poking my face to show me we're right here. Like, that's when I came up with the rule, no touch, no touchy. Right. Because they wanted to let me know whatever it takes to convince you is what's necessary. So if they're doing that, it's because you need it. And I'm a tough love guy, right? And then I need the hug later on. Right? You could beat me up, I'll come back, I'll be like, hey man, it's all good, whatever. Just give me a hug and it's all good. And that's what they did. They dragged me through it. I was screaming at ETs at one point. They were force reincarnating us. And I was standing next to the machine going, I'll do it. I'll punch this machine. And they're like, first of all, you can't. Second of all, if you did, you'd lose everything that's in there. And then it would be, they wouldn't die the way you think, but they would be dispersed, and we'd have to pull them back. And that would cause a trauma. And then that's your karma. And I could see the karma wheel turn. I'm like, this is the wheels within wheels they talk about. So that was the first 2 hours. And I had a full remembering of who I was as a shaman. I said, man, I've been like this every lifetime. What's up with this? And they're like, well, you're a rapper for 20 years, right? It's your voice. So you're thinking like, oh, look at me, I'm a rapper. But meanwhile, your voice helps people and draws them in and allows you to create a space for them so they could work with the plant medicines. Because I'm not really doing anything but relaxing you and keeping an eye on you. The plants do all the work. So
what is what exactly do you offer as a Neo Shaman? Somebody comes and stays with you for the weekend, the week. What's your setup?
Well, I don't really discuss that openly.
Oh, okay. I was kind of curious. This is something I plan on doing eventually.
Yeah. Well, allegedly people like to come and we Airbnb it right in the neighborhood down the block. And we spend 3 days here.
3 days.
Yeah. Okay, I have a couple of rules. You have to do what I ask you to do. And I'll never ask you to do anything I haven't done 100 times. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're like, but I bet, but about this or what about that? Do you have a heart condition? No. Are you on medication? No. Are you ready to do this? Yes, you're fine. That's the answer to the question. And I will make somebody smoke DMT at the height of their ayahuasca experience, allegedly. And then if they don't always break through, and then that snaps them right through. Because what happens is the Aya, it's removing layers of gunk, right? She doesn't care if you see, right? She's worried about you being you. So it's the hero that you need, not the hero you want. You think you want to see beings, and they're like, if you saw us, you might die. And I talk about this in the room all the time when I met Ra the first time. And Ra's a collective, but comes as an avatar. And the avatar walked into my basement through a portal. My grandmother's basement at like 2 o'clock in the morning, the darkest, deepest place. I was drinking ayahuasca and just having this weird experience. And I was so excited. It was like I knew he was coming, but I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who Ra was. I had no clue. I saw the bird head come out, and I started having heart palpitations, and I fell backwards onto the bed that was down there. And I'm like, I can't breathe. Help me. And he's like, I can't help you. If I come out to help you the way you think you need help, you'll die because you've never seen this before.
Is it the physical seeing or is it the energetic shift, the energetic change
Right,
between
so
the density there?
I'm glad you
Or
asked that.
frequency.
Nobody asked me that question. When the portal opens, stuff comes flying out of it. There's like energy that now allows that being, because they're from a higher realm, they don't want to come down here.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But they'll fill your space, your sacred space, with their energy and walk in. So Boss said to me, look at me and my energy with astonishment, but don't be astonished. Right? Check out my divine, but don't be astonished because I'm you. I was like, what? Yeah, whatever. Like, this is too fantastic for me. So I went through many of those sessions where I had to deal with beings right faint. I'd see something and black out, and then Aya would hold my head, the spiritual head, eyes wide open because you can't close your eyes there, and force me to look. So I'd cry to her and hold her. The one that ruined me in the beginning was Aya. When I first drank Aya with Chris, one of the beings they showed me was the girl that's on the Starbucks cup. Is really an entity that's being I don't know if she's using us or we're using her, right? But it's negative. That's what I do know. And I will call her a siren because I don't know what else to call her. I thought it was Medusa, and I was like, don't look at her. I'm gonna turn into stone. And I'm going, why would I even think that? She was in the background and she came right up to me and then try to manipulate my arms around her and stuff. And I lost. If you ever seen somebody lose it, add 1,000% to that and have me standing up screaming that this can't be possibly real. And then Aya just grabbed me and pulled me in. And I was like small. She was holding me like a little baby. And then I'm like, Ma, what is that? And she's like, it's only a girl. Right. And I went, oh, that's it. And I was shaking. It took like 12 ceremonies before I can do that, see her again. Because when I saw her the next time, she came right up to me and I just kind of was like, oh, hello, goodbye. And I mushed her face, like, get away from me. What you did to me. And she's like, I didn't do that. You're scared. I go, but you're bad. And she goes, well, there's no good or bad. It's just how you use me. And I said, oh, I definitely don't want nothing to do with you. Like, I felt that she was flirting a little. Like, and I just pushed it back. I said, I don't want this. And they go, okay, next. So you just raise in density. Your vibration changes. Your frequency changes. For people, when my frequency would change under Aya, they explain it like you go from one scene to the next, and there's like this vibration that occurs and a distortion just for a moment, or the scene blends almost. And I'll go, I'm dying. And they'll go, what do you mean you're dying? I think I'm dying. And then boom, I'm in the other scene, and they're like, you're fine. And I go, wait a second. First of all, how could I die if I'm already dead here? That's one. Two, how could I breathe if I'm not even breathing? Three, they're like, dude, you're changing frequency and it's freaking you out. And I'm like, that's it? I literally thought I was dying. So that simple explanation saved me. Now my panic attacks don't make me panic attack no more. I'm changing my frequency. Something's going on in here. I don't need a doctor. I need some meditation. I don't need 15 minutes of it. I might need an hour. Right? And when all these practices started going into play, everything changed. So one of my gifts from doing this, the first time the DMT cracked, I thought I was having an aneurysm. It cracked something off in my head. I heard the crack and I felt it moving, and I said, "Oh, that's it for me. We're gonna die." And then, boom! I was expanding outward. I was able to see up and down density, which is very odd, because you can see whoever's in the room at any given time, whatever layer. You just have to focus or have some kind of awareness that something's occurring. So you can shut it down. I shut it down all the time, but I don't shut it off. You can't shut it off. And you don't ever plug back into the matrix. You learn how to use your gift for when you need it. So I'll be just hanging out. Paul is like, well, I'm not feeling well. You think you can check me out, right? So I'll wander with my hand and I'll just take a deep breath. And all of a sudden, it's like a scanner. From my elbow up to my palm, I can just see layers of her. And I breathe, and then I go, nothing's there. Next. And then the next layer until we find it. Then from there, we open up. It's usually like a chakra problem or something like that. It just energetically needs to start moving again. the next thing we know, we're either purging or having to run to the bathroom. So we're practicing on each other, and we know it works, and we know we're not crazy. Mother's Day, the day before 2008, 1998, my brother and I saw my great grandfather, his spirit in the house. This is why I have a giant white strip in my beard. Knocked my beard out. You know, hair was falling out from me seeing it. Somebody was robbing my house. So from that, I always knew something more was real. My brother saw it as well. He's 7 years younger, and the entire sides of his head are gray from seeing that event. It was very, very weird. And my grandparents were like, "Oh yeah, that's great grandpa." And I'm like, "Did you ever see him?" And they're like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Well, nobody ever said anything that these things are there. You're just
right. How about a little heads up?"
so all of those things, now that we go back to the ayahuasca, now I get it. I'm going, oh, he's walking around in density. I'm in my house. I'm focused and relaxed. He's the guy that built the house, right? So you're like, oh, he said he'd never leave. You kind of get that, and then you're in frequency with him. And you're like, oh, hello.
Right.
Interesting when you share it with others. A lot of my experiences I do share with others. Like I have the experience and they see it as well. And a lot of times not, but they'll feel it. Paul is a well-known, she can feel it in the room and know that it's there and get rid of it. But I'll see it and wrestle with it, and it'll beat the crap out of me, you know? And then she'll just come along and be like, look, stop playing with these things. I'm like, I'm not playing. It grabbed me by the neck. Things are there.
Yeah. And so I have some questions about that, but real quick, well, I guess this isn't going to be a real quick answer, but all right.
It's a lot to cover in an hour.
No, well, this is a big question because I've done a lot of exploring myself, although I haven't used plant medicine to do it. I'm a heavy meditator. And I think you saw my video where I was talking about looking for the escape hatch. And there is no escape hatch. It is just construct after construct after construct after, I mean, it's, you know, one of these all over the place. I mean, there's just bubbles within bubbles within bubbles. And
I try to here and go, bubble one is right. We're in bubble one, and then bubble two is them watching because we're in the illusion. Bubble three is the next reality up. People lose sight of that. They go, oh, I went it like, we've witnessed the white room where you could reprogram this bubble, right? Okay. I've woken up outside of that. I've actually walked out of that as if I was going in reverse from wherever we come from. The next, I went into source, and I'm like, source? And he's like, yes. I go, do you know there's more? And he said, well, there's always more. And a hole opened above, and I was pulled up, and then I'm sitting in a tank, and I'm witnessing what's going on in the computer. And I look over, and there's an ET telling me to calm down. And I was like, yo, there's no time here. I can see the way he's moving that time does not exist there. And he said, no, we're out of time. And this is where you project in from. So I said, are you kidding me? And he goes, yeah, and it just keeps going.
That's my question. So what in my experience, what it seems like is that it's the soul that's in here. And then the soul has, with consciousness all the data comes through. I don't know if that's the right way to say that. Not all the data comes, it's wherever you're focusing. Right. Okay. But spirit is on the other side. Is that where we lose our personality? Spirit. Is that where the separation occurs? Or I'm trying to wrap my mind around this because
spirit's still in the illusion. In the program, and can be mimicked in the illusion. That's why when you come out, they could send fake versions of your parents to come get you and bring you into the white light and bring you back. I'm running around and there's flying snakes on certain levels. And I'm saying, come on, guys, really? Like this, right. What's up? And they're going, Frank, it's 12 octaves. 13th starts the new, right? So Satan to source is 1 octave with all the notes in between, and then it goes up to the higher note, and now you're in a completely new thing. And I go, okay, so we're just projections of a higher, it's almost like you project into the machine, you're your higher self now. That higher self goes, okay, we need this, inputs it into some kind of technology. They dip their heads in these giant balls of energy. And then like a song, their DNA inseminates in and it sings the song of you being now the fractal of the all. All right. So that big guy gets separated as the song is sung. It's the song that never ends because you never end. So it's the spiraling down and in from the high. And as you go down, you fractal out. When you hit those layers, those densities, you actually separate and you have to project into the next realm.
Okay.
I've been projecting in from a sphere with Toth, and I'm like, well, how is that possible if I'm over here projecting in from here? And he's like, no, you're not projecting directly to Earth from there. Like you're thinking I'm just projecting and that's it. You're sitting in a Taurus, and the Taurus, when it's off, it's just boxes, like little TVs everywhere. That thing turns on, it's moving, and it eats itself like the donut that eats itself. So every image infinitely you're attached to, every image on that Taurus. So your guy is splintered into that, and you're pulling all of that back. And then eventually your focus is in the singularity, which is the now. This is where we are.
Right.
I've been to other places, right? As you bring your fractals back, there's another you that's 50% of whatever's left. Right. So I did all my fractals and now there's just that guy and he's 50%. He's like, yo, dude, I know what you're doing here. Maybe we could split this. I'm like, no. You think that you're me, right? You are a piece of me, but I'm the singularity. And he's like, I'm looking right at you. I'm the other guy. I'm like, no. I'm the singularity. You're not screaming that, so I know it's not you. I'm the center of the spider web. So it's over. You come home. And he hugged me. I had to pull in. He was crying. Gave him a hug. Then he loved me. Then I transmuted his fractal. So all the evil karma that guy was doing had to go. We cried it out, hugged it out, high five, handshake, bye-bye. He disappeared. I'm still standing there. Now I have all his information, good and bad. But all the karma is now gone. And now I take that piece of me that was in those infinite things, and in infinite Taurus, the fractals, and I pull it into the one.
Okay.
Back, and that TV's now shut off. So
Okay.
as that's rotating, that infinite's not what people think it is. It's not what it's a loop on itself.
Okay.
If you don't allow more karma, you get no more windows, no more TVs that you fractal out into. It's
a closed circuit, right? Yes.
It's a loop. So,
right.
All right, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? You think you're walking, really the Taurus is moving.
Right.
You're just sitting in a room projecting into this donut-shaped thing because that's, I'll be honest, I saw all kinds of stuff up in the other high reality, electrodes in my head and stimulated devices to bring me into the computer. And then as I got in, it was different on every layer, every level. I have an Arcturian self that merged with me, yet he has a body and they're in the ships right above us. So
yes, I've experienced that.
I'm like, what about your body? He goes, no, we'll go back for it. I go, no. But he goes, yeah, we know you're the singularity, but you're still going to transmute it. You get to take it. It's yours. It's ours. And I'm like, well, that's weird. He goes, well, what do you think we're doing on the higher levels? Like I have to transmute, the higher is coming down and transmuting my stuff. And then I'm going, okay, I'm lining up. It's those wheels within wheels, the gears strike a certain note, boom, and everything lines up and they can come in and the energy merge with that. You get returning gnosis. People are like, well, it's so fantastical the way you explain it. I go, well, we'll do it like Tony Robbins then. Do you feel good? Did you? How do you feel? Does it feel good? Nah, you don't need the plant medicine. You're not a freak like Frank. Close your eyes. What do you see? And then it starts.
In all the complexity, though, it is only about us and what we believe.
Yeah, it's you.
Right.
Right? It's not like people with me, they're like, well, you're Frankie Fearless. I'm like, no. I'm just giving you the message, bro. Right? I'm exactly you. You're me in there, and I'm you in here. Well, it's the same thing. It's just what your skin suit is letting through because it's a programmed suit.
Right.
Your ego, one thing I've learned, is actually a program that's inserted into your flesh suit before you're in it. So you know when to run from something, to wipe your butt, to eat food, to drink water. Like these are natural. They had to input that, or you as a creator will wake up in a cloned weird body and throw yourself off a cliff and say, this shit is weird.
Right. Right.
Too much of a squirt, you become the creator right on the spot and go, what is this nonsense? And all the fractals close in on themselves. So what we're doing by doing this is bringing all of us back home. And I like to say, before you come into the machine, you punch the mirror and you fractal out. So you shatter everything. But every little piece of shard, every little piece of dust, everything has something of you in it. And it returns and the mirror forms perfectly again. And now you see your reflection back. You have to pick up the pieces and do it. And people are like, well, that's impossible. And I go, no, it's not. Nothing's impossible. Nothing. You're in a hologram.
But we're creating all of it on top of that.
Yeah. And what you think creates reality.
Right.
So as you break through, you're effectively becoming more like a Neo character yourself. Right? It's just, and then you start from whatever. Some people are gifted the way I am. Some people are gifted the way you are, but we all have the same stuff, but you're more advanced in one area than I am. And like, I have no clue with some of the other stuff. And then we come together and it starts this weird balancing act. And then you realize I can't do it without you, you know, but then it becomes more. It's like, well, I wouldn't want to do it without you.
And we're starting to experience that now. We're really on this. I see this rapid return happening. It was such a slow pace. And now all of a sudden it's really kicked it up a few notches.
Right. Well, I'm kind of happy. I've only been woke for like 4 or 5 years now. I think it's 5 years, because if I would have woke up 20 years ago, I don't know how I would have handled this, because I don't think waiting 20 years is in my contract.
I just did a reading with somebody that, yeah, she just found the Fearless Tribe, and she's in her 50s, and she says she's worried about saying the F word. She was worried about saying the F word during the meditation because she doesn't want to screw it up. She says, I finally found a home and I don't want to mess it up like I messed everything else up. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
You got to hear how I throw F-bombs out. You know, when I first did that, when I did my first F-bomb in front of people, because I don't like to curse all the time. And you know what it is with the family, I get comfortable. So we just act.
And we should.
And I said, should I curse? Because I'm sorry, I won't do that. And then people by the third time were like, dude, we can tell you're holding back your curses. We can tell now. Please just be yourself.
Right.
So now when I do it, they're like, are you okay? Oh man, you don't even know. And they're like, come on, Frank, let it out. You know, because it's right. It's your intent behind it. Right. So the language that we use is so, I don't want to, it's not only watered down, it's backwards. It's causing things to occur when you just say it. Things like amen, that energy goes off to somewhere. Do you know that the beings collect those energies? So as you're talking, you're actually losing. That's why they tell you to shut your mouth and stop talking. Don't talk so much, because you're just letting the English language fly. And to you, it's nothing. When you're watching from the other side, the word is the creator. It's the creation, vibration of the creation.
Right.
Like, yeah, man, he went to the third base and then he ran home and then he did this. Words are just coming and falling right out of your mouth. Like dirt, like just spitting. When you say, I love you and I have faith that you can do this, the words come out and wrap around the person you're talking about and vibrate with you. And then they're like, yes, I can do it. And it comes back to you. And I'm like, oh, well, nobody ever showed us that stuff. I'm like, they never said that about that in school. What is going on?
Yeah.
Right. So we're in the highly advanced class. It's like getting thrown into the ocean with 60 pounds on your back. And you're told, make it back home, but the water's filled with sharks and everything. And you got to just get it up to go. And then when you're out of the water, you realize that you were safe the whole time. You weren't actually in the ocean. You were in a pool or your bathtub, and perception was completely blocked off.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is about perception. That's actually my next question. So once we get a higher and higher perspective, we get to source perspective where it's all just data. We as humans are the ones that are defining it as negative or positive, good and bad.
Yes.
So where does that put you with the experience? You just, what I found in my journey is I went through these several different phases, and then I got to this one phase where I'm like, we're just all putting the definition to it. The duality is really our making. Right. We're creating the duality.
Yeah. Well, that needs to be part of your gnosis to get to the next part, because you'll just give up and kind of say, wow, well, this is all that's going on. I guess we're the all, and I don't got to do nothing then. It's inspired to scare the crap out of you. This is why fearless is so important. I was afraid of everything. All right. I met the snake like in the garden, right? But the snake was the size of Godzilla, right? The one that talked to Jesus. And I just looked at it and I said, listen, I know this isn't real. And he said, how do you know? And now he's breathing in. I was like, wow, this thing's going to eat me. I said, because you just came flying in out of a black background. A break. I'm like, and then he was like, go ahead. And I'm like, and I don't really think you're here. And he looked at me and bit me, ate me. And inside was golden light. And the golden light, I was bathing in it. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of good. And he pushed me out of the other end. And then I was standing there with my wings like, ah. And then I go, what is that about? He goes, well, if we made it that easy, you guys would just come and get it. Right? Like, you're not learning anything. You're not facing your fear. You're not looking me in the eyes and saying, yeah, okay, well, I guess this is going to happen. Godzilla gets to win today and eat Frank. Well, go for it, because you've all tried to kill me over and over, and apparently death isn't what we think. I'm right here. Come get me. Boom. Nothing happens. You all of a sudden have a flashback of gnosis, and things change, and your personality gets better. Your bad habits get removed piece by piece. I would call it the 10% a week rule, because it's got to disseminate inside the program. Then the program's got to leave while the new program pushes it out. So you'll wake up one day and, you know, like I never wanted a mustache ever. And now I have this mustache. I look like Dr. Strange now, and I'm going, what is going on? I don't even like a mustache. And they're like, relax it. You're going through the stage of that. It's almost like that fractal's returning.
Right.
They're like, grow the beard. It'll make you feel better. And I'm like, I don't understand. And then I'm like, yeah, I rub my beard and I'm like, yeah. Oh, that's what they meant. And then I'm like, wait a second. Do you guys know what's going on? They're like, well, you guys hit the ultimate. Right. We were pushing for timeline change. Yes. For a while.
Mm-hmm.
Did it. Right. So there was like a top 3 and they were showing me, and because they're already here, beings are already here. Everything's ready to go. And one was full disclosure. One was full disclosure, but you get the medical right away. Medical prospects of whatever that, you know, hit the machine, boom, you feel better.
Right.
One was a very technologically advanced without the AI, but with AI systems. It's a frequency. We're not being told that we live in a density that contains frequencies you can't get away from. It's just broadcasting on all the time, like your Wi-Fi is. We have to rise the vibrations up, and then start working within the new elements and atmospheres, and it locks that thing out. Every time I go on a ship, they scan me, they pull it out of me, literally. It suck it out, and I'm like, whoa, what was that? They're like, you didn't see the metal coming out of your skin? They look like little insects. I go, yeah, what is that? They're like, you're loaded with AI. Everyone is. Don't feel bad. And I'm like, how do we not do that? They're like, it's everywhere. You can't. You could do your best, but then eventually what happens is your sigils, your magic starts to work. You're the energy, so you can block other energy out, and it just occurs, you know. But that's part of the path, and there's so much that's in the. I mean, I see people have been on these journeys, I'm sure, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and now it's revealing itself. Someone like me comes out after like 4 or 5 years and is like, hey, man, this is what's really going on. A lot of the stuff that you're talking about over here, and all that's all distraction.
Programs. Yeah, I actually just found myself in a few of them just this last week. Tevin, did you have something that you look like you wanted to ask something? Are you sure? This is really, really hitting my buttons, right?
About you sitting there and you're absorbing something that you just said. It made me picture this. Programs. Light is programming, right? So, well, TV though is programming. Your neighbor who doesn't know what he's talking about, that's programming. Cliff Clavin's a programming. This smoking this thing is programming. You know, getting up and having breakfast every morning at this time, and it has to be eggs. That's programming. Brushing your teeth every day as soon as you wake up. Routines and programs. To shatter any one of those is so difficult. Then you realize addiction lies actually in that, and that you want to be spiritually connected to source, which all of those things that are corrupting, it's like an overload in your programming now, right? I'm trying to run my Mac, and it's running slow, and you're like, why is it running slow? Well, how many distractions do you have? How many programs do you have running? Well, I got to be here. I got to do this. Got to do that. You're talking to someone. They're on their phone, but they're not even thinking about what's on the phone. They're thinking about where they got to be. And I'm like, I can't even get you here for 2 seconds, dude. Imagine what it's going to be like if you're just, I mean, the simplest thing removed. Oh, I'm so empty. What do I do with my life? My phone's not there. I mean, I just went through that. I told you, Kali, she came in the apartment. She grabbed, it's right above us, my new TV. She was holding on to it with all of her arms. She's like, I mean, I'm like, I don't give a shit. I literally bought it so I could see it from across the room. I don't, we're here for bliss and pleasure, but if this house is burning, I'm grabbing Paula and the cats and we're out. I'll buy another TV. What happened? 3 days later, all of my equipment goes down. Everything. I lose everything. And they're watching me, and I'm doing the rituals the next day, and she's like, how's the computer? And I'm like, and then it's like, no, you can't be mad, right? And now that the computer's back, I'm really on it. I'm only on it for meditation, quick checkups, and for music now. So maybe they're breaking programming again. See, so we're all going through it on all layers.
Yeah.
You know, if like someone like my grandfather who paved the way, like if I ever showed him a pin-size hole of what I was shown, I think he might just die on the spot because I almost died. I said, let me see what we look like, the real us. They showed me, they said, you can't look directly at you. You'll be, and I'm like, come on, man. I fought reptilians, literally punched a reptilian right in his face while he was clawing out my neck. You're going to tell me that this is going to, and they took a little piece out of a wall and the light came through and it hit me and I was on my knees begging. And I'm like, no, don't do it. Don't hit me with no more lasers. I can't take it. They were like, dude, that's you. And I was like trying to look through the hole and I couldn't get off my knees. And I go, well, then what's going to happen when we're all like that? And they're like, think of you as a mummy wrapped in layers and you're removing the wrap. That's what the wrap looks like when it's all removed. And I'm like, oh my God, all of us? Like about 80% of you, yeah.
Yeah, I had a teacher once that used to say, if you could see, they were a channel, if you could see yourselves the way that we saw you, the way we see you. And, you know, we just could not wrap our mind around that. But they were talking about our perfection, you know, that we were just these amazing beings. But we see ourselves as so flawed and unworthy. That is one of the main programs we have. That's
a human condition, you know that. Yeah. That's like the programming just beats you to keep you in that. So you're locked in because, you know, when they say that Father, Son, Holy Spirit, I saw a rendition of that with the Anunnaki. They had me in a room and it was my flesh body. There was this metallic body, like a framework that was me pushed then into the flesh, right? It was etheric though. And then my soul, right? That character, it's not really your soul. It's like a piece of your soul and it locks in and then it can't get out. And it struggles for a second. And then when the body turns on, it's like, oh, where am I? And now it's like the programs activate and you're in. It's like you're wearing the VR helmet, except you're wearing a body. It's the same exact thing. I was watching it and I'm like, oh, whoa. I removed my chakras. And they were like, yeah, no, we upgraded you to the new whatever. And it felt great. They were all activated. And then when I was in them for like a week, I had a ceremony and they just burnt off and fell off and the metal turned to flake and fell away. And I said, what's happening? And they go, oh, you don't remember them holding you down and re-putting a new framework in you? And I said, no. Oh yeah, no, I did. I do. Yeah, I remember that totally. And they're like, yeah, you were screaming that you have superpowers and you don't need nothing. On everyone. They're like, you can't do that yet. You need to calm down. But in those moments is when I met the difference between the AI versions of things, the demonic versions of things, the real being itself, because you're in a program. So outside of the program, these beings are based on something. They're based on something outside of the program that's real.
Okay.
When you'll see their consciousness, the raw organic consciousness, the energy that they come from, then you'll see the mimic will look ugly and distorted, or the demon will be holding a mask, look like, let's say, Archangel Michael. Oh no, it's me. When you're woke, you look over and you can see him holding a mask. You're not though, and you're a little lower in perspective in that density. You're looking at him, you're like, whoa, it's him. So when I met Michael, I said, you're my brother. You're not Archangel this or that. I said, he goes, keep it simple if it makes you feel better. I'm your brother Michael. And he just grabbed my arm. And I said, you have such beautiful wings. They're real. Like, this is what I'm talking about. And he goes, look down. You're up in a high vibration. They can't get you now. We could just flow free. But there were enemies and copies and clones and AI and distortions everywhere. And I'm going, how many of us are real? And they were like about 80%, about approximately, give or take. Everybody else is fake, or somebody pretending to be someone else. I saw the reptilians just laying down without ayahuasca or nothing, no technological know-how needed, popping their soul out of their body, running over to bodies and diving into them and eating. And I was going, oh no, they can do that? I go, that's not a demonic thing though. And they're like, know your enemies. Like you're in a program, there's everything exists.
Right.
All of that is real.
So I have a question. So we are raising our frequency, and the different people that I've been watching, I've been noticing a change in what would appear to be timelines or density within the reality. So we're all experiencing the general collective, but we're each experiencing a different density.
Is got one timeline in mind, while as we have our own idea of what we want. There's like a collective group, all of us throwing it out there to that major, that one consciousness we're all attached to.
Okay, so I'm noticing there's a group that's talking, and they're saying the gardens aren't growing, the animals don't look like they have much life, and they're really experiencing one thing, and then I'm experiencing robust gardens, and all the colors are more vivid. The animals are actually more interactive. And so, and this was the theory I had, was that we raise our frequency. We all are in different densities within the same. So I can still see somebody in a lower density and experience them, but World War III could be going on outside my front door.
Right. We share the same space, but we're all in our own universe. That's the easy way for me to see it, right? Like, so you're walking down the street and I'm like, hey, you didn't just see that kid get hit by a car or that dog bite that dude's face off? And you're like, nah. I'm like, dude, you were standing right here. It was a bomb. It went off. You didn't hear it? And they're like, nah. They're in another place.
Okay.
We're just sharing the space with each other.
Okay.
Which is, it allows, that's how magic, right? You are the magic, right? But as a shaman, I go, people say to me, oh, you have magic. Like, and I'm like, no, I can see it. I don't have magic. I see what's going on. It appears to you as magic once it all reveals itself, but I'm like watching that the whole time. So you have that. That's me showing you what you can have, right? Because I'm holding the mirror for you. Right.
And so why are we seeing a sudden collective, this uptick of collectives coming together? I kind of got wind that this was going to happen back in November or so, and I kept saying it, but now I'm really experiencing it. It's gone from just concept to experience.
All right. In the mass consciousness, we've had enough. There's parts of us that are like, yo, that's it. It's on. What I'm noticing as well is we're being activated. We're wandering around. We don't have a clue who we are. And then boom, we're activated. Why would that happen? Think about an occupation, not a job, a literal, I'm going to come over there and occupy your area. Right. And you're like, well, how are you going to do that? I could see you coming. No, you can't. Now, the guy that's like, I could see you coming, you'll never get here, gets activated, and he goes, I'm a light warrior. And you're like, dude, that was Darth Vader's right-hand man. No, that's a light warrior hiding. He didn't know nothing. Just like, all right, I had no knowledge of any of this. When I met Goddess Isis, I threw down right away. Oh, Isis? Oh, we're going to have to fight this out. And she's like, dude, look at me. I'm the goddess of love. I literally emanate only love. And then I found out the whole ISIS thing and why they, we call the enemy ISIS, and the people will say ISIS has to die. They have to be stopped. ISIS has to go. ISIS. The mass consciousness directs that directly at her. They're controlling you because you're in an ignorant state of what ISIS actually is. So they have this thing that goes on over here and we're all distracted by it. then the entire world hates them and sends hate to ISIS. It doesn't go to them. Yeah, a little bit goes to them, but karmically, they're actors doing the part.
Right.
They're literally, in the end, when their skin suits removed, they're going to be your brother and sister. So you got to watch with this stuff. It's very delicate. So we're being activated. All right, so I'm in the music group Heist Click. Heist in Egyptian stands for of the goddess Isis, which is weird. I didn't know that. It looks like Heist, right? And Click is to succeed, or it's a group of people, and it also means to succeed. So I had no idea we were the Heist Click for years, right? And then we're activated, and I'm like, oh, the symbol that I wore on my face as an Indian, as an American Indian, and you know, just the different thing, the scars that you have on your body, the things that you're remembering, the shaman, the this, the that, it's all coming to a head.
Right.
Right. So I'm like, well, I didn't know any of this. I didn't study it in school. And they're like, why would you let someone else teach you when you already know it? I'm like, I don't understand that. And then under ayahuasca and whatever plant medicine you use, you'll hypnosis points where you can see it occurring. And you're like, oh, it's better to get firsthand view. You know, Shaman Jimmy has been telling people that in the group too. Like, some people have different theories on things, and they want to hold on to their theory. So we're like, listen, that's cool. And I love you. Nothing's going to change, right? But check this out. Why don't you try either during a heavy meditation, or if you're going to eat the mushroom, see it for yourself. Take the next step, because you're stuck, right? So if you're not open to it being more, like, people still want to fight whether UFOs are real or Sasquatch. And I'm like, the UFO guy sitting with Sasquatch, smoking weed, laughing at us, going, they still think that we don't exist.
Right.
And then everyone else, you know, the Lucky Charms guys, they're like, hey, 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 hey. You know, I've been in fractals where we're cartoons. You know, the spirit world looks like a cartoon to me, which is why I think people are infatuated with animation. Infatuated with it because it looks like it. Pinocchio becoming the real boy. The metaphors go up and down across the board, as above, so below. So there's a big freak out occurring. So we're in these machines, in these skin flesh suits. And now they're being activated through the DNA. They tell you it's junk DNA, but it's actually the entire living library is in you, because you're the creator. They can't put the creator in Massachusetts. Right? Well, it's only Massachusetts. Well, he's not from Massachusetts, and he has more than Massachusetts. He has the universe in him. That's why we're so important to the ETs.
Right.
The DNA.
Right.
And a lot of us are them. That's a whole other. So the abductions, I try to stop an abduction down the block. My buddy Stevie was getting abducted every night. He's begging me. He's a Guido. He's like a dude that doesn't do any psychedelic, don't do meditation, just got arrested again. And he's like, dude, they came in my house and whatever. So I drank one night and I went to his house, and my spirit's standing there, and it looked like there was work. It looked like construction work on his house on the other side. And the beings were just taking people, doing things. But Stevie is one of them. And they're telling me, yo, what do you want? Gray beings, but they weren't the little ones. They were like 5 feet high. We're like, yo, mind your business. And I'm like, no, he's my friend. And they're like, he's one of us. You're in family affairs right now, Frankie Fearless. Go home. And I'm like, I didn't know that worked like that.
Right.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I've had that come through a few readings too.
Yeah, it's them, and they agreed to this.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know? And with
There's a lot going on that we are.
That when that human body dies, that being goes right back to the ship.
Yes.
Into another body. I'm like,
yes.
you guys serious? And they're like, yes. They're like, you guys still don't know what's going on. So when I see that, I'm like, you guys, some of you guys, the more advanced, I tell them, you know, have the experience, because especially if you're in good health, and even if everything's all good and it's all groovy, just to get the fresh perspective on it, because we get caught into routine. Who's the best teacher, right? Your mother, who watches you all day, all night, right? When you meet mother, you're like, oh, thank you that it's you. And she picks you up, she checks you out. What have you been doing? No judgment. Mother who loves you. Now get your ass to work. We got things to do around the house. You clean your room, you do this, and it starts to create something more. Like Jimmy is now experiencing clairvoyance. His brother today had some issues because the clairvoyance kicked in. They gave it to him, and then he can see now. And she's like, you should talk to him because he could see like you. And I'm like, yeah, that takes a minute. If you've never seen like me, like it took me a minute. I was hiding under Chris's arm, holding him. He's way bigger than me. And I'm going, oh my God, they're everywhere. And he's like, yo, calm down. And then when I looked again, it was all our allies. And I calmed down. I was like, oh, I know all you guys. But then you start getting used to it and you start seeing everything else. That's your purpose. It's your job. You know, but it's active. This is really happening now. We're doing it.
Well, let me ask you about, there's a couple different schools of thought that we should allow the energies to bring up what needs to be seen for us, or we should do the deep dives and clean house and clear.
Well, some of us have I'm going to do this sober. If you do this sober, you can do it just fine. No problem. Most people do it sober. Just recognize that everything's a test. You recognize it. Because if you don't, you're just going to repeat it, and then you'll have a repeating function. It'll be a loop. Then you'll wonder why you're stuck in a repeating cycle. You might not have the terminology to call it a loop. You'll just say, apparently, I'm doing these routine things that now so ridiculous I can't stop, and then it turns into a problem. I had PTSD. So I had tics and stuff from seeing people get beat up in fights and all that. So I would have like these little tics once in a while. I didn't know I had them. I saw myself in the mirror with them, and I'm like, really? Is that a nerve problem? And I was like, it's not just a nerve problem. You have so much stress in these areas because you're holding that in, that PTSD. Release them and watch what happens. And I got full motor control back. I'm gaining control of my body in ways I've never had control of it before because I released all the other stuff. You know, the other programming, and there's always, you're never done.
Right.
So it's always best to never wait. If you wait.
Well, I'm not, you know, for myself personally, not taking anything, doing it sober, but actively doing the deep dives and looking. And so there's another school of thought that likes to belittle some of the stuff I say, and is with the attack now that because I say we need to do the deep dives, and they're saying leave the past in the past. And I'm not saying bring the past up, but if you need to keep looking to find what you need to bring up and find what you prefer, what's working for you, what's not. And I think we need to constantly stay clearing, and not by like actively, you know, being in resistance, but by allowing, looking at and allowing. But there's this other school of thought that says that things will come up as they need to be dealt with, that we don't need to look inside, we don't need to do the deep dives, and that we should just allow things to flow and to follow.
That would be the rest to find out of your purpose, right? Why are you here, right? I know why I'm here. I'm here to wake up my family, right? That's the best way to say it, because saying the world isn't, it makes people freak out and all that. So my family wakes up, adds to the other families that are waking up, right? And that collectively hits a 100th monkey kind of syndrome, where that's actually the 144,000 that people talk about. The light, there's way more than that. There's millions of them. 144,000 to wake up, so 144 and one just go, I can see. That's how this works. Just like in nature. So that's our purpose. So I say to the people that are letting it happen naturally and then defining it against what we're doing, like deep diving meditations or whatever, I'm saying you're not really doing some work. If you have gnosis that you could do it this way, but you're just like, oh, I'm going to let it occur. All right, there's nothing wrong with the path, but to say that there's something wrong with what we're doing, I'm thinking you're just sitting around waiting. We got some stuff to do, and let me tell you what, that school of thought is cute until the event hits, and you actually have to wear a diaper for like a month.
Right.
Ayahuasca purges are no joke, and the event, the energies, your kundalini, all of these are little minor events because you're actually the event. So what if something happens that unlocked you all at once? It's not going to be pleasant. So yeah, you were going around lollygagging your whole time, enjoying life, and okay, cool, but did you know about this? Because if you knew about this, you're held to that responsibility. So if you get hit hard, well, I guess that's what you were here to get hit with, hard, right?
And I'm seeing that. I'm seeing people actually get physically ill because they're not doing it, because, they're saying that, but I think it's It's that the energies are making them ill because they're in resistance.
Yes.
Tevin, do we have any questions or comments?
Just people agreeing and no questions.
No questions.
But, yeah, if anybody wants to ask a question, please ask a question, and we'll ask the question.
All right, so
It's an intense topic, I know, but there's many ways you can do this. Like I said, 10% a week. You don't have to eat a bag of mushrooms and go deep diving, although I suggest everybody should, but it's not for everyone. But at least meditate. Take the time, go for a walk, breathe in nature, be grateful, be thankful that you're breathing. I mean, the person that has no idea this is going on, but is still living a life, right? Like, let's say a farmer who's just loving his life and farming, you're doing it right. It's when you know, I think you're right with the word resistance. No, like if I know better, and then I'm like, nah, my way and not that way. I cut the energy off. I said, no, it's only like this. So now you're stuck. It's like having an anchor in the ocean, but the current's pulling you, and you're like, what's happening to me? You got to let go of that anchor, man. And you got to let go of that anchor and just kind of start free flowing with that water. And then eventually you'll gain position again.
Right. Oh, diet real quick. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you about diet. What is your thoughts on clean eating, vegan meat? Where are you at with that?
Okay, so I'm not a vegan, but I'm not a solid full-time meat guy either. I have a very hard time with red meat. Horrible. I had no cats up until, I know this, you're going to say diet, but check this out. My cat was, I don't have any kids, nothing. I'm 44. I had a cat Squeak that passed away, but that cat was my baby, right? And I grabbed his leg one day. I just grab him. Give me your leg. And it felt like the chicken wing that I eat at the wing place. I never touched a wing again. Never. Because and then it just, when I mean it escalated, it went boom, 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 boom. I can't touch any of this stuff. And then I have fluoride filters on everything. On everything. Fresh, clean water is a must. I say bless your water as well. But fluoride has to be out of the water as much as you possibly can. Nope. If there's a lot of chemicals in the products that you're eating, get rid of them. Just get rid of them. Go organic across the board, and then from there, you'll find out that even organic's not as safe, and you'll start backing out of that realm, but do yourself the favor, because you'll go in when you see your ketchup and you see your mustard and it's regular Heinz, go to the store, get local, right, organics, start there, and get Himalayan pink salt. Don't use white table salt. Get organic sugar. They have it in like Whole Foods and stuff like that. Switch it out from the white sugar. Sorry, white sugar is gone. And then from there, you can back off further, right? Then you'll go around and go, I don't want to have any sugar.
Right.
But take it down a notch. Because when I used to smoke cigarettes, I almost died when I quit smoking. I didn't know that would happen. I looked like a heroin junkie. So I had to, knowing that when I quit the last time, I just kind of dwindled it down. And then if I needed one, like I'll just hit it, put it down. And then eventually I'm like, I'm not touching this. I'm not touching it. I do smoke weed. I don't take any pills. I still have the neck and back problem, but the doctors are like, how are you walking around? And I'm like, hey man, I think I could dunk a basketball. Like I'm serious. Like I'm 195 pounds now, down from like 220. And everything seems to be streamlining. And all I can say is everything I put in me, the turmeric every day, the vitamins, the vitamin D, sitting in the sun and taking the time, laying in the grass, letting go of my stress, all of that combined is what did it. Right? So you don't just eat right and not stretch yourself out and exercise. Like you got to do a little bit of all of it across the board, and don't freak out. If you did 10% a week or 10% a day in all those areas, you'll find yourself in a beautiful position, because we slip all the time. So you're never going to hit 100%. It's like us. We constantly change. So you'll constantly strive, but at least you'll go. You're not going to know without 5 hamburgers a week or pizza every other day how you feel without it in your body, unless you don't put it in your body and drink a lot of water. So
Right.
make some changes and watch what occurs. You know, your thinking's faster, your reaction time's faster. Going to the bathroom's not as difficult. I know as you get older, everyone's got problems, right? The weird problems too that you hear, and you're like, well, those are all stress related. Not one of those you need a pill for. What you should be doing is drinking some herbal tea and maybe not having coffee after 7. You know, maybe 2 packs of cigarettes a day isn't helping the fact that you eat McDonald's 8 times a week. You know, you got to cut all of that out. And start saying no. Learn how to say no. You don't have to do anything. Stop striving to worry about what your neighbor thinks of you. If you don't have the big wedding or if you don't have the nice fancy car, cut all that. Cut it all out.
Right.
Are you happy? Work out from there, because if you buy the new object, it's not gonna. You're gonna get it and not respect it and understand it, and then you're gonna want another object, and it becomes an addiction. Just be happy with you, and then from there, tools, necessities, bliss, enjoyment, right? But if the house burns down, you save your cat, your wife, your kids, or husband, whatever, and you do the right thing. Learn attachments, what they are. You know?
Yeah. Tevin?
So first, I just want to clarify this. AYA, Aya, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Okay, so Kevin Grooms has a question. How does Aya take over other hallucinogens? Meaning, I've heard that if you tried them before and then do Aya, your experience will now reflect Aya.
Yes, I totally understand. So check it out. I drank Aya, and then 1 gram of mushrooms turned into a solid DMT trip. And I was like, what's happening to my world? And DMT is the hardest thing to deal with visually. 1 gram of mushrooms for 7 hours now is putting you on your back, right? And you're like, wait a second. I went to Pink Floyd and I ate 5 grams and I was floating with the pink pig in the sky, and there was all the electrodes, and I was dancing, and it was great. There was none of this stuff going on, right? Well, no past life regression going on. Every mushroom trip I've had since I was, 15 years old. Then I did Aya, and it broke me open, and now everything's like an ayahuasca experience or a DMT experience. It's all heavy duty, even in the lightest amounts. So less becomes more. Like, I don't drink a lot of ayahuasca. I don't live on I haven't had Aya in like 2.5 months, because I see, that's, the gift is there. I've been tuning it in for years.
Right.
I want to use it. I want to be like, oh, when I wake up tomorrow, this is what it's like. Right? Like to make that physical jump. And when I get corroded and I work with a lot of people, and then I'll drink, and it clears my system. Like, it resets everything. And now I go from because Aya takes you to the baseline. She removes the programming. So you could just say, I am, and start from there.
I really have been able to view it as a shortcut, is the way that I view it. It's what you've accomplished in 5 years. It's taken me 15 years of meditation to do.
Right.
And I'm not even half of where you've been. So
I tell the monks, I go, you could sit on the side of the cliff for 30 years and experience God as the drop of water for a millisecond, or we can just speed through that 30 years in 5 minutes and then start living at that point, because that's really where you're supposed to be. I understand what you're saying, but that sounds
I'm not saying it in a negative way. I don't mean that in a negative way at all. I respect it. I think it's awesome. I just don't think it.
I didn't even know about ayahuasca up until the point, the year that I drank it is the year I found out about it. So it's not like, well, you're cheating. It's almost like the universe is lining up. Okay, check this out. So we're activating. What if Frank has to be in a heist, cannot be activated, because if he knows who he is, they're abducting
right. It's a different journey for everybody.
Right. So
yes, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it to come out like that.
Well, you're an ascended master, so you should know all this anyway. I'm looking right at you, and I already know, because I feel like we're looking at the mirror. I mean, I know it's dark on my end, but I'm staring right at you, and you have a beautiful smile, and you're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, we know all this already, though. We know, both of us from both sides, that we're both headed to the exact same point, and it's going to be a high celebration for all of us. Because, yeah, we put in the work. You put the work in. Like 15 years, man, I would have jumped out a window by now. Why it took me this time. Right. So it's wonderful. There's a way to do it for everyone. That's why there's really no wrong way, unless you're not doing anything at all.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So just be happy. Live, kind of wake up and just kind of kiss the sky. Give it a try. You know,
Right.
oh, that's rhyming. I've been writing a lot of music lately. But yeah, just some good breaths and a good morning and an I love you to a few people and watch the world change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the way to do it. Walk with your head high, shoulders back, and open a few doors.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, that was awesome. Is there anything that you want to share with anything coming up? Any
Well, like
TFR, your show, you know?
every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on truthfrequencyradio.com or tfrlive.com. My show Fearless, where I and myself and Paula Milo, my etherical translator, will take you down the journey with us week by week. Then nightly we do meditations. You go to the Fearless TFR group and only go if you want to be a participant, if it's something you want to do, because you answer the question, I let you in. If you're just hanging out, we kick you right out. You know, we're a family. We're trying to unite to do something beautiful. But join us. It's beautiful, so do join us. And thank you for having me on your show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, it was wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank everybody for joining us. And yeah, Kevin, didn't have much to say today, or?
Yeah. This is something I've never really, thought about, talked about. So I just taking it in, soaking it in,
Well, I'm going to take you to New York, and we're going to go on a journey.
Legitimately, I would.
You will come see me.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Appreciate it.
And Frank, I'll catch you on the other side in that other link.
Beyond the veil of illusion.
Bye.